Welcome back to my channel. My name's Abby. If you haven't watched my videos, I hope you like it, and if you do, subscribe. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial over how I edit all my photos. If you follow me on Instagram, you know how I edit all my photos. They're basically all the same. It's very cohesive. I edit all my photos the same way with slight variation. So I'm going to be going over how I do that. I don't have a preset. It took me a really long time to figure out how I like my photos to look. I was kind of going for that like blogger vacation preset vibe, but I didn't want to buy a preset. I wanted to be able to like customize how I wanted it to look, so I just figured out how to do it and have been doing it since. I've gotten a lot of questions about how I edit my photos, and the only answer I can give is I use Lightroom because it's such a lengthy process, so I don't really ever know how to explain it. I'm like, oh, I use Lightroom, and that's the extent of that. So I'm gonna be doing a tutorial of how I edit my photos. With that being said, let's get into it. So to start editing, I go into the Lightroom app. These are the photos I have imported already. But if you go to the lower right hand corner, you can click add from camera roll, which is usually what I do, and then I go to my favorites because I favorite the photos I want to edit. And so I'm going to select this group of photos. I have already imported them, so they're not going to import duplicates. So I'm going to go to one that's not edited and show my whole editing process. So the first thing I do is I go into the light to adjust the lighting. I usually move down the highlights. None of this is exact. I just kind of depends on the photo. I move up the shadows, I move up the blacks, and I move up the whites. Like that. Depending on the photo, I also sometimes adjust the exposure and the contrast. This photo just needed a little bit of contrast. The next thing I do is go into color. I usually go up on the temp scale to warmer side, and then the tint I go to the green side. And then I usually up the saturation to give it a little more color. Next I go into color mixing, and I start with red. I move the hue up a little bit, and then I go to orange. I move the hue down for orange. I go to yellow and I move the hue down as well. For green, I move it up. For blue, I move it up. And for dark blue, I move it down. For purple and pink, I don't do anything, usually. So then I go back to red and I move the saturation down. And so I do this for all the colors, moving the saturation down just a little bit. But for yellow, I move the saturation down a lot, and that's about it. Everything else is just down a little bit. Then I go to the luminance. For red, I move it down a little. For orange, I move it down a little. For yellow, I move it up quite a lot to kind of give it a brighter, wider feel. For green, I usually move it up a lot as well. And then for blue, I move them both up as well. Once I'm done with that, that's the majority of the editing. I go to detail and sharpen the picture just a little bit, and then go to optics, and I do enable lens corrections. And that's basically it. That's how I edit my photo. So here's the before, and then here's the after. And sometimes if I think it's too orangey, if my skin looks a little too orange, I'll go back in and I'll go to the orange, and I can lower the saturation a little bit or move it up, just depending on how I want it to look. But it just kind of is up to your preference if you want your skin to look tanner or not. Sometimes I like to make it, I move the red hue down a little bit to make it more of like a red tan, so it's not as orangey. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. And then what I do, as you can see, I've edited all of these photos as well. And so if I have a photo that has all the same lighting and it's basically the same picture, I copy the settings like this and just click check. And I go to the next photo and I paste the settings. So that way I don't have to re-edit every single photo. But I do not set presets just because every photo you take has a little bit of different lighting, so you can't really make just one preset that goes with every photo. So I do this whole editing routine for each photo, and it's always a different combination. It's usually about the same. I do the same things, I just don't do them as much, or I'll do them more. But you can see each photo I take is just like a little, it's different lighting, so you can't make them the exact same editing. So if I look here and you go into the light, you can see I had more contrast in this. I had to reduce more shadows and more blacks in this one as well because the lighting was more shadowed. And then in the color mixing, it's all about the same, but you know, it's not exactly the same. I do the same directions, I just don't always do the same exact numbers. But yeah, so that's the before and after of this one. And that's basically how I edit my photos. Alright, so that's how I edit my photos. If you enjoyed it, like it and subscribe to my channel. I plan on making consistent videos, so if you have any suggestions for what you want to see on this channel, comment down below so I know. If you are here because you like Instagram and you want to know how to edit photos or how to pose, I also have a video of a sunflower field photo shoot, so go watch it. But yeah, so if you liked it, give it a like and a subscribe. So that's it. Bye!